Good evening. I'd like to call the Recreational Cannabis Site Plan Review Committee meeting to order.
Perfect.
Roll call, please.
Council Starbird?
Present.
President Council Allensburg?
Present.
President Council LaPierre?
Present.
President Attorney Lamanna?
Present.
President Mr. Donovan?
Present.
Mr. Cowdell? Absent.
Okay, thank you. We have one item on the agenda, and it's a presentation regarding the Leafy's Holistic Meals LLC proposal to use adult marijuana product manufacturing establishment at 141 Eastern Ave at the Monty's Restaurant. We have representatives of Leafy's here with us tonight. If you could just state your name and address, please.
Good afternoon. Attorney Blake Mensing, 100 State Street, 9th floor, Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm here representing Leafy's Holistic Meals. So I just want to introduce myself briefly. I'm a cannabis attorney and former municipal attorney, and I'm basically here to introduce one of the principals here, Cameron Landry, and have him go over some of the operational details, and then any regulatory questions the committee may have, I'm ready to answer those as well. Thank you.
Cameron Landry, 186 Norfolk Ave, Swampscott, Mass.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Cameron Landry.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. And you want to discuss what your proposal is?
Yes, so we're planning on opening up a small manufacturing, like Italian dressings, bringing healthy options to the edible market, because that's one of the big problems right now. There's no healthy options. So we're just doing that on the side to bring in some extra income.
Okay, and I did attend the public meeting at the site a few weeks back, and my understanding that any manufacturing would only take place while the restaurant and bar are closed.
Correct. That's correct. Yep. It will be limited to space in the basement and in the attic, both of which will be controlled limited access areas. And which will be inaccessible to restaurant staff, and any activities in those spaces would occur after the restaurant's hours.
And I did on the PowerPoint you have printed out, there's a floor plan of it that shows the security cams and the security cage also that all the product has to be in according to the legal regulations.
Okay. I'd also like to recognize the attendance of committee member Jim Cowdell from EDIC. Jim, not to hit you with a question, it's just sit in the seat, but part of the process is the vetting process with EDIC.
Yes.
Did they meet the requirements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We believe that they have the financial abilities to do this, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the members of the committee? Council LaPierre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I just want to be clear, obviously Council Allingson's ward, and you attended the public neighborhood meeting. This in no way interferes with any of the ingredients of Monty's, like you mentioned, Italian salad dressing and so forth. It's not going to be infused. It has nothing to do with the pizzas on site. And there's two separate entities, to be clear, including the menu, not just the preparation and the premises of the basement and the attic, but the food itself is not going to have any cannabis related to it, correct?
Correct. They can't even sell product to the public. Any product that's produced there can only be distributed to on a wholesale basis to a licensed dispensary or delivery service, and they're the only ones who can sell it at the retail level.
There were quite a number of jokes about oregano and this business opening up, or not opening up, but on social media. So I just want to be clear with that, because a lot of folks had some misgivings and said they weren't going to frequent Monty's any longer and so forth, so on. So just want to get that out to the general public, that this is totally separate and just really a spot for them to pay rent for the space that they're going to occupy to do this business. But it's not open to the public, and it's not for sale by any means as a product.
If I understand it correctly, if you want Monty's pot pizza, you have to add that ingredient yourself.
Okay.
Correct?
So it's a
100% correct.
Self-serve pizza.
At a licensed retailer, but not from the facility. That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Attorney Lamanna.
Is the CCC approved a similar model using an attic and a basement to a restaurant that's open to the public, to your knowledge?
I'm not aware of the specifics of that, but basically what they look at is, do we meet the regulatory standards for security? And with respect to where a facility such as this might be located within a municipality, they defer entirely to the municipality. So after an application is deemed complete, the CCC will send a communication to the city hall and say, is this property capable of complying with the local zoning? We believe it does, subject to a special permit. That's a process we would undertake if we were fortunate enough to be granted this license and begin negotiating the host community agreement. But yeah, I think the commission will look at the physical security infrastructure. The regulations are really robust in terms of what your cameras must cover. And this is the definition. It's not a mom and pop. It's a pop and son operation. So they'll start with 2 employees. This is an effort to moonlight and add some products in the edibles category that just simply don't exist in this state. It's all gummies, chocolates, that sort of thing. There's nothing that even resembles sort of what I would call regular food. So yeah, I think it's just a unique offering where they're trying to moonlight, take advantage of a space, in a building that they already control. But yeah, the commission's singular inquiry with the city will be, is this okay under city rules? And we do believe it is.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Cardell.
So Monty's has been in business for a long, long time. And so to follow up on Council Lapierre's point, which I think is a good one, because social media, I've seen it. So we don't want to get the message out that if you're going to Monty's, your pizza is going to be infused with cannabis. So I think that we laugh, but I think it's a serious message that we need to get out there. So that's number one. Number two, so we all have been to Monty's. Can you just describe, like, when you're walking in through the parking lot on the side to enter Monty's, where physically will it be? And then the other question is, where will the cannabis be stored in the security measures that we talked about?
So to your first point, with the social media and Instagram, my mom also handles the Monty's Instagram. And on the account, she's been answering people saying it's a separate thing and trying to keep the public informed about that. And then the second thing, if you go to the floor plan page,
Yep.
it shows even shows the stair drop down for the attic space. And then when you walk up those stairs, there'll be the security camera, and then to the right will be the cage that has the code and the passcode to get into the.
So the Monty's that we all know, right? The bar, the restaurant.
Yeah, you won't see any difference in the back
I think
kitchen in
that's
the
an
back.
important point. That's the point I was trying to make.
In other words, the publicly accessible portion of the restaurant won't be anywhere near where the entrances are to these segregated, secured locations in this facility.
And Attorney Lamanna, if I could just ask you a question. Because my first concern when I heard about this was, A, that it was at a restaurant, but B, at a bar. And you can't have a dispensary or a cannabis business anywhere near a bar, especially one that allows children inside, as the restaurant does. Do you see that as a concern, or is that something that the CCC will figure out?
The CCC will look into that. I agree with council that what they will be looking at is for security and the like. If you remember, on the Saugus line, there was talk, Jordan Avery's location, there was going to be a restaurant right next door. Mm-hmm. Again, there would have to be security walls to separate the two businesses. This is unique, and it's an attic and a basement, but if they comply with the security regulations that are very detailed, I would say that the CCC would not deny, but they're proceeding at their own risk if the CCC has any concerns about alcohol that close. It would get denied and it wouldn't come back to us.
Okay, and it wouldn't be our first time with authorizing the manufacture of edibles. We did just up the street in the old Maxon's building approved. You remember the kosher baked goods that never came to fruition as of yet. But are there any other questions from members of the committee? Councilor Allington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I'm the ward councilor of the area. Are you the son of the owner of?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
Yep.
correct.
My dad couldn't make it. He wanted me to say hi to you, Edward,
Hi,
earlier
Dad.
because he had a problem at the restaurant. But
I am a fan of your restaurant. It's an institution in Lynn, and that's why when you guys decided to have this in that restaurant, there's a lot of mixed reactions and it's self-explanatory, right? Especially from the residents across the street. I myself was asking a lot of questions as well. Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, are we early on with we're not voting, or is there an opportunity for the residents to speak for public hearing in the future?
There would be a special permit process that would also require a public hearing, Attorney Lamanna?
Correct.
Okay, good. So, and then some of the questions I might reserve for public hearing as well. I receive a lot of calls, and as the ward councilor, calls, emails, either supporting or not supporting at all. The most common concern is contamination. Like, I don't want to bring my kid, either it's in the deck or the basement, but it's in the same building, right? I know you'll have an answer to that. But again, there are people who really you just mentioned the word pot, and that's it. That's end of discussion. And is that something your family is looking forward to face in the future? That losing some really diehard customers. I know some of them move from other states, other towns and cities. Will just drive all the way to Lynn just to get some Monty's pizza.
So from our, like the overall, all our regulars and people we talk about at the restaurant have all been, like when we told them about it and everyone, we haven't had any bad outlooks on that part. And then also on like social media and stuff, we've been answering out, and because we had a big hype with the Barstool Festival we went to, but we always try to, it's not something they're worried about, no.
All right. I just want to thank your family and the people behind this, because you listened to us and Councilor Starbird. You had a not successful neighborhood meeting at first, but we recommended for another one, and you followed our advice. I know this is a long process, but I really want the community to speak and say something in the future, and I wish you guys are ready for that as well.
And just if I may answer part of that. There is zero risk of cross-contamination for twofold reasons. One, the operations of this business wouldn't be while anyone was dining in the restaurant. Two, every product that they would ever produce could only be sold to a licensed retailer or delivery operator. Each individual product will carry a unique alphanumeric ID on it that gets tracked in the state's seed-to-sale tracking platform known as Metric. If you lose a package, the commission drops the hammer off on you. If you had some, funneling from the manufacturing to the restaurant, I would not be surprised for a second that the CCC would yank that license in a heartbeat. So that's a risk that they are not, wanting to run. So they're going to follow the rules to the letter.
Councilor Lapierre.
You want to say something?
Yeah, just one more thing about the cross-contamination, because it's, like you said, a security cage is totally different, whatever. But also on top of that, my family's expertise, since we've been in for 75 years, we haven't had a mark on our liquor license, and our health inspections have always maintained an 8 average, so we're very strict on that stuff.
Councilor Lapierre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a concern that I'm thinking about as everyone's talking, it might be more appropriate for Attorney Lamanna, but I understand through this process, we've permitted now 8 recreational cannabis, and I think 1 medical, should be 2. But my worry through Attorney Lamanna, or through the chair, would be if this becomes more of a practice in other restaurants and establishments. What's the limitations here? How many of these can be approved? What does this sort of category fall under? Is it, obviously it's not for sale, so can you walk us through the requirements and how many we might be faced with if we approve this one?
Certainly. So per state law, there must be 20% of the number of retail establishments walk in, purchase that we have for liquor licenses. So that's where the number 8 comes. We have 40 plus package stores in the city, and by state law, we're required to have 8 unless we go back to the voters. So there have been 8 approved. 2 of those also were approved medical, although the old, I call it old world remedies, the old Cedric upholstery, I don't believe they got into the medical business. It's just Apotheca. We've approved, I believe now, 2 deliveries. There's no mandatory number of deliveries stores that the city has to increase to approve. There was the kosher facility at the Maxon building. They didn't open. I think that special permit probably has lapsed. They'd have to come back at this point. This location is, again, we're not obligated at all. There were new regulations approved by the CCC that encourage and promote cities and towns to approve applications from disadvantaged or people that have been harmed by marijuana laws prior to the legalization. That's going to flush out in the future what the city's ability to have if a minority or a woman or someone that had a criminal conviction relating to cannabis that may have been harmed and getting jobs prior to legalization. But as of right now, it's just the 8, and everything else is in the city's discretion.
Okay.
Councilor Arlington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up with Councilor Lapierre's question, in layman's terms, so there's no limit, Attorney Lamanna, for services like this?
The council in their wisdom should say that we do not want them.
Okay.
We could say that we don't want any deliveries. The 2 have been approved. I would foresee at some point additional delivery applications coming forward, and it'll be up.
So moving forward, it's more on a case-to-case basis.
It's a case-by-case basis after the 8, with the caveat that there has been some CCC changes that I have not rolled up my sleeves and dove into yet.
Right.
That has not been universally embraced, including some different calculations on host community agreement money. Most of the facilities were required to pay 3% of their gross. Now, moving forward, cities and towns will expend money up front, and they will submit a bill to a cannabis facility and say, we believe this expenditure was dealt with to overcome or to deal with the negative effects of cannabis. The cannabis establishment can appeal that to the CCC if they feel that this expenditure was not related in any way to their sales, or it was an expenditure that their facility didn't cause a problem in another section of the city. And the CCC, after a hearing, could say, city of town A, city of Lynn, city of Salem, yeah, you spent it, you thought you were spending it, you're gonna get reimbursed. We don't feel that you should be reimbursed. So they've really upended the whole system, rightly or wrongly. The legislature and the CCC have done this, but there have been major changes to the CCC guidelines and how it affects municipalities.
Thank you, Attorney Lamanna.
And if I may, through the chair, just with respect to this becoming a business model that people repeat, any existing restaurant in Lynn would first have to check the zoning map and the zoning ordinance. If it's not in the correct zone, they don't have a starting line, much less a finish line. Right, and there's also the buffer from all schools, 500 feet or more. We don't have any such buffer issue there. And then with respect to impacts, I would say, a manufacturing facility that's open, only at night and not open to the public, I don't see a huge potential for impacts because by its very nature, you can't have people coming to purchase it. So it's only, going to be B2B business transportation that will occur.
You have to share your capital with BDIC. Make sure you're
Correct. Correct.
And if I'm not mistaken, if approved here tonight, would require special permit with a public hearing, permitting from ISD on their build-out, Mr. Donovan?
Yes, sir.
And then everything that they need to comply with, security-wise and everything else with the CCC. So I think tonight is just one of many hoops
Correct.
that the proponents would have to jump through to finally be ultimately open. Yes, Councilor Allen.
Mr. Chairman, I still have reservations, and my apology, based on a lot of research we've done and communications with the residents. I still want to push for this to be tabled so I can discuss this more often to the residents, especially the building across the street where most of my calls are coming from. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Just give us more time to have that discussion.
Is that your motion, Councilor?
That's my motion.
Okay, motion's been made to table.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's been tabled. I assume Council Arlington wants to see another community meeting to get more residents from especially the Kings Beach Towers building across the street. Perhaps their community room?
As soon as possible, I can get.
Okay. Is that something that you would like to help facilitate, Council Alex?
I will make that meeting, and I'll make sure that the next meeting will still happen while you're our chairman for this committee.
So it'll be like a Christmas party?
Yeah. It will be a Christmas present to whoever.
Okay,
Give us a month.
Sure. Thank you for your time.
okay. Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.